Good evening, everyone out there. This is David Kukkola at the Traditional Healers Forum from the four corners of the world. We want to welcome you tonight, the summer solstice. Want to welcome Norma LaBrava. Good to see you, sister. And we also want to welcome all our guests here tonight. We have some wonderful healers with us tonight. Bruce Elijah, healer and community builder, Oneida Clan of the Iroquois Confederation. We have Teya Valentina Chavez, founder of the Valentina dance method, practicing in Marin County. Francis Weller, a dear brother of mine, healer, author, psychotherapist, and founder of Wisdom Bridge, practicing in Santa Rosa. And Rob Allbee, healer, poet, founder of Inside Circle Foundation, working inside of Folsom Prison. And we also have our wonderful guest musician, Ron San Miguel, who we always love having him here. And so those are going to be our guest speakers tonight. We're going to be talking about addictions and the complexities and the bigness of it and all the different circles that it can touch. And with that, we're going to move into a meeting with Bruce Elijah. Bruce, you there on the phone? We got Bruce there. Yeah, we're going to do an opening prayer. Bruce Elijah, Oneida Clan of the Iroquois Confederation, does the opening prayer. We do that each time, each one of our meetings, because we always say as a circle begins, so shall it end. And so when we start these healer forums with that blessing, with that prayer, then we also believe that circle is going to end that same way. And so we're trying to make phone connection here. Bear with us. I believe Bruce is there. Bruce, you there? We're having a little bit of technical difficulty here. And so with that, we're gonna still try to contact him, and so then as we move into this program, we were talking a little bit earlier tonight about the Traditional Healers Forum and what is its purpose and, what's its direction. And I want to just spend a few minutes with everybody, letting you know that when we talk about traditional healing, we're talking about old practices, indigenous practices. What we say the four corners of the world, because in that language, we say, there's the black, the white, the red, and the yellow. There's the four peoples. And how is it that we can come together? And if we look closely at those four different directions, we'll see that each one of these peoples, indigenous peoples, we find a common thread. The common thread is that each one of our cultures, there's a language, there's land, and there's a culture within that. And our indigenous peoples always respect that triangle, the land, culture, and language. And in holding that in that good way, then there's survival. And so there's respect. And as we lose that, then what we see is maybe what we're seeing today in today's world. And one of the things we're bringing up today is addictions and the way that it's growing, maybe as we've lost that deep connection to the land, that deep connection to our languages, our cultures. And so with that, we want to welcome you tonight. Did we get Bruce on the line yet?
I'm on.
Oh, hey, Bruce. Hey. Communication, huh? How you doing up there in Saskatchewan?
Yeah, my goodness. Busy.
Yeah. And so we've had you on, this past year and a half, and we're so pleased to have you. And you've been blessing us with that opening prayer. And so if you could start with that opening prayer, and then we can get into tonight's program on addictions.
Okay.
This is Bruce Elijah, Oneida Clan of the Iroquois Confederation.
Wadanisline tunonen sinbadronayela de go nain waden hela doni jogo datsunga Then haile ne kan tendi ngwalangao kan ne na ko lagona to haka. Ne ga di tunu gwan to na la de kan Then but then he ladoni, he had on his ladoni, he had the sundadini. Age not this so, they just go in this and quite diesel. Then Hakagweni gone, Katsok no down with the gone, Hagunen Yangualan, and then Honukwa. Hadagali Dutchla gone, Neonin Hondonogua, then Yehodilan, Hondonogua at the Saudi down Hadika. They got it to no one, but one I love it, gone to the Heladoni, down in your Tagan and Haguanigo. And the opening for this evening is that what we want to do is that we want to acknowledge each and every one of you individually. We hope that all is well. And we want to be able to acknowledge your immediate family, and then your extended family, and then your community. We hope that all is well. And with that, then we remind ourselves is that we are part of creation. And creation is everything of what was put here first before us. And that was the land referred to as Mother Earth. And we put all the things in our minds as one, and we acknowledge that gift, that beautiful gift that was given to us by the Creator. So be it in our minds. And then we say that as we step out of our homes and we step on the ground, step on the grass, and then everything from there is that there's medicines that our people know of, and that we are still seeing that they're still growing. And then we say that there are people that have been given that gift to be able to pick medicines, prepare medicines for our people, whether it's prevention, starting with prevention, and then going on to when sickness hits, that they're the ones that we go to and offer tobacco for assistance in helping us to get our health back. So that's still continuing. And then we acknowledge the four-leggeds, our relatives, the four-leggeds. And it's told to us that they've been put there for a reason, and that is when the hunters go out and gather, whether it's fishing or whether it's hunting, so that we can get the medicines from them, our health, the food that we need, the meat that we need, and only take what we need. And so that still we're able to still continue that today. So be it in our minds. And then we look at the trees, the different types of trees. In our area, it's the maple tree. And so in different regions, they have different trees that they look to as that of, if we want to say that, the redwoods out in California. And so we put our minds together and acknowledge that we can still see them growing, and that they too are our medicines. So we want to be able to put our minds together and acknowledge that gift, so be it in our minds. And then all the foods that, when we do our ceremonies and we acknowledge all the foods, and we, in a language you say, John Heko, it's our relatives that keep us going, that we feed, and it gives us that sustenance. And so we are able to, when we do those ceremonies, it's all the peoples of the world. It's not just our little communities of where we live, but it's an acknowledgement. And we know that people are, if they're lucky, if they get one square meal a day, if they're lucky, and people are starving. And in this day and age, there shouldn't be. But that's the times that we're in. money's the big thing nowadays. And so people are paid not to grow foods when we should be to help other countries and other regions of the world. And so we want to put our minds together as much as what we can to pay attention to that and give an acknowledgement for all the foods of the world, so be it in our minds. And then we say we look up into the heavens, and there will be two moons. And there's the one that's at night, which is our grandmother, the moon. And we say that that's the female species of life that depend on that. And we say that there's certain time when it's a new moon, first quarter, full moon, and how many days it takes for the last quarter, and start all over again. And we say there are 28 days, and there's 13 moons. We go by that calendar of 13 moons. And so we hunt and we fish and we gather according to the phases of the moon. And we do the teachings according to the phases of the moon. And so to this day, we're still able to. In our community, we have our own school, which we teach our young people. And today I can say very successfully, because when our children go on to the regular school system out there, they're at least within the top 10. And so, because they know how to do the research, they know how to do the work, and they understand the world as it is, the times that has, looking from the past to the present and to the future. And so we're still able to do that. And then the sun, our eldest brother, rises from the east and sets to the west. And if we could use that symbolism of turning a page every day, and each day we're going to learn more, understand more of how the world is at this point in time, according to our prophecies, the changes that is taking place, and to be able to know what we need to do and how to do so that we survive through those hard times. And we're still able to do that. And we put our minds together and give an acknowledgement of the two moons, so be it in our minds. And then we look into the stars at night, and we are not a people who record our history in paper, on paper, or write about it, because all we have to do is look into the heavens, and there it is. So we still know that, and we still understand that. And then from the setting sun, from the west is where the thunder beings come from, the thunderbirds. And so we're still able to do that because we hear the sounds of the thunder beings coming to quench the earth. So we can put our minds together and be thankful for that, so be it in our minds. And then the prophets who gave us the prophecies and showed us and shared with us how we are to survive into the future and how that's going to happen, what's going to take place. And we're witnessing that today of the changes that's coming. And so we're preparing ourselves for that time and making our ceremonies and our language and our culture even stronger. So brings us a good mind and a good feeling that there's something that we can do and still continue in that phase of life. And put our minds together for that reason, so be it in our minds. And then to the Creator Himself, that we say that still, with all the beautiful gifts that was given to us from the beginning of time, that today that we can still put our minds together and acknowledge that those gifts that was given to us, and to speak to it and to address to it in our language, so be it in our minds. So with that, we hope that all is well with you, and the topics and the issues that we need to address to, that's the truth. That's the truth of life and that's what we need to hear is the truth. And here where I'm at is in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And that's right in the middle of Canada. And very interesting time, the changes that our peoples are going through. And what is known on the American side is the boarding schools. And we call it here the residential schools, the survivors of that. And today we're hearing all of the traumas that those people have gone through and witnessing it. And I'm here for a week, and we were told that we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 25,000 people, and I guess that's only a third of the people who we're going to be able to see and be able to listen to their horrific stories. It's a hard time. It's a hard time for our people. And this is where the addictions come in, and this is where suicides are happening because everything else has been taken away from them. We no longer have any as of, I guess, in the late 50s, maybe the mid-60s. And so, there's people that are still remembering, and maybe for the first time for us to hear. They've kept it on so long, and so there's a lot of hurts and there's a lot of traumas that people have been traumatized over the years, holding it in, and comes into sicknesses and the diseases that follow when you're not in a good mind. So, I've been asked to help, and I'm just now with my health, just getting back to sort of taking my time, and the people I'm working with who have asked me to help, they're taking care of me pretty good. And so I take my breaks, but I still, I guess I'm still learning and as to how do we help our people, and how do we maintain and still experience that goodness of who we are with our ceremonies and our songs and our drumming. And so I guess I can say that I'm pretty lucky with how strong our people have been, resilient and surviving in these times. And I look back of how fortunate I am in this time that I'm still around and still learning and still able to help our people. So with that, thank you for allowing me to be a part of it.
Yes, well,
the healing practice.
Thank you, Bruce. That was, first and foremost, a beautiful opening prayer, and my heart goes out to you and all your people, and the good work that you're doing up there, and that recovery work. And it seems like the recovery on a certain level is borderless. You've been listening to Bruce Elijah, Oneida Clan of the Iroquois Confederation. This is David Kukkola and Norma LaBrava on the Onda Bahita KPFA. We want to welcome you to the tonight's program. We have wonderful guests here who are going to be participating in this whole discussion of addictions, causes, effects, and maybe some possible solutions. We have a wonderful musician, Ron San Miguel, in the background playing with us. And so we're going to thank you, Bruce, again for being with us tonight. And we're going to move forward in here into the program. Also, we want our listeners to know that this is a call-in program. You get on your phones, 510-848-4425. That's the call-in number. We are taking calls tonight. If you want to comment, if you want to ask a question, if you want to be heard. Sometimes our voice just needs to be heard. This is that place it can be heard, because this program is for you. And so with that, we're going to move forward into our next guest. And we're going to be talking with Francis Weller. Welcome, Francis.
Thank you, David. Good to be here.
Yeah, good to see you. You want to just tell everyone just a little bit about you and where you've been, and maybe then sort of bridge that into addictions. And, we were talking earlier tonight, and you're talking about the thousands of addictions and people that you've dealt with. And so why don't you take it on, Francis?
Well, I've been a therapist for 30 years, and certainly a good percentage of the people that I have worked with struggle with addictions. It's kind of a cultural norm. I would say this is a culture that's, in a sense, rooted in addiction. We even use the imagery of we're a consumer culture. We like to consume and take in as much as we possibly can. We're the most consumptive culture on the planet, which is itself its own addiction. But the people I see in my practice, when they come in and the presenting problem is addiction, I almost invariably say to them that there's something graceful about this moment, that they've been defeated by something larger than them. They could not muscle their way through the addiction. They couldn't use their own strength, their own willpower to somehow overcome this thing. In a sense, there's almost a necessity of defeat for people in this culture. And that defeat is a time of grace, because it opens up a moment where we begin to see that I cannot do this alone. That's part of the beauty of something that knocks you to your knees, is that you cannot continue to go on with an old strategy. You have to be willing to ask for support. I think that's part of the beauty of any recovery program, is that you begin to move into a community-based recovery process. Addiction is so rampant and is so prolific in the culture that we do need to come into some type of relationship with another in order to deal with it. I always say that if you scratch any addict, what you'll find underneath it is a lake of shame. There's a feeling that somehow underneath this addiction is this profound feeling of worthlessness that is intolerable to bear. And we find as many possible ways as we can to cope with that feeling of worthlessness. We get addicted to work. We get addicted to drugs, to alcohol, to sex, to busyness. We'll find any possible way we can to not have to turn and face that feeling of shame and worthlessness. And this shame itself is a unique thing in that it's not really about me. It's about some feeling of absence, of lack. We tend to interpret it as personal, like this is a reflection of me. This is my feeling of shame, my feeling of worthlessness. But it really is much larger than that. It is really the absence of something that is so necessary for the soul, which is this feeling of being embedded in a living world, a cosmology of belonging, where my sense of being is as intimate with the rest of the world as anything else. But very few of us feel that. In the absence of that, there's this feeling of emptiness. And that emptiness is experienced not neutrally, but as shame. What's wrong with me that I feel so cut off, so alone, so isolated from the rest of the world? And again, that is an intolerable feeling to walk with day after day. So we're ingenious at creating strategies of coping, and most of them turn into addictions.
And then if we follow that thread, where is that turning point of, say, denial into recovery?
Well, in many traditions, they say you have to hit bottom, right? That we are tenacious. We hold on as long as we can with our strategies until we are literally defeated. I often say that no man has ever come into my practice voluntarily. He comes in because he's been defeated. He's been knocked off the horse. And if he's lucky, he'll see that as a moment of opportunity to admit something fallible and vulnerable to another human being, that I'm hurt, I'm alone, I feel worthless. And in those moments, there's a chance to reconnect.
And so then getting back on that horse, that first step is, I'm hurt, I'm defeated.
Yeah. I would say that's the choice to not get back on the horse. Because that horse is the heroic horse. I'm in charge, I'm in control, I can do it. And for a youth, that's not a bad place to be. But as we age, that's not the place we need to be walking. We need to be turning back towards the youth and working with them and supporting them. So that move of acknowledging the wound, acknowledging the feeling of worthlessness, becomes a place where the first impetus for healing takes place in that spot.
Okay, we have a caller on the line. Would you like to come on in and be a part of the circle?
I'm a minute ahead. The first impetus for yes, I would.
Welcome.
Oh, thank you, David. We had a caller.
And so you have a comment or a question?
Just turn down your radio.
Yes.
Turn down your radio, please.
Okay. Yeah, welcome.
That's better.
Yeah, I'm with Katie, and I live in Pleasant Hill, and I have a sister, hers, that called me, and she reaches out to me once in a while, and she has an incredible problem of not wanting to reach out and to connect with other people, and I think that's one of the biggest problems with addicts is isolation.
It is. I mean, that's part of that shame piece I was mentioning, that the last thing we want to do is to expose ourselves to anybody, to admit the fact that I'm carrying so much of this feeling of defeat and inadequacy and shame. So we hold on to our strategies, intensely to try to cope with that feeling of defectiveness and flaw. So I'm glad that does she reach out to you periodically?
Yes, she reaches out to me every 2 weeks or so, and she hasn't reached out to anybody else. She keeps concentrating on the negative and won't look at any of the positive, and I'm trying to get her into the moment and let her feel the gratitude of just having a place of her own. And, pretty soon if you get a day clean, you're going to start seeing that people do trust you after a while, and you don't have to, stay in this rut. Because this rut is going to just take you down, and it's just going to leave you feeling more isolated, and it's just this negative, down-swirling pattern that never seems to cease. And I worked with sponsees before, and, I worked with a lot of kids that, they don't mind reaching out, and they love to hang out with other addicts, and they do things just to, grab attention and stuff. And this is totally not the case. This is more like, okay, I'm giving up on life, F everybody else. I just don't want to be, we saw her on a pink cloud for weeks on end, and she wouldn't stop talking, and she was so happy with her life, and I tried to, remind her of how she was, and she just wasn't listening to it. And
yeah, Teya is going to give you a little feedback here. Teya?
Hi there. This is Teya Valentina, and I just wanted to check in, and it sounds like you really care for this person, and it sounds like she has been in some treatment, and my suggestion would be that, part of the addiction, too, that we have, that Francis alluded to, was that we want to help others, and ultimately the person has to, like Francis mentioned, hit bottom and help themselves. And sometimes we have to set boundaries by not being there in a certain way and coming to it from a different angle and creating really clear boundaries and intervention. So it may mean that you talk to your people about it that you know, and it may be that an intervention or an in-treatment program is necessary, and just regular meetings will not be suitable. If that's what I'm getting at you said she was on the pink cloud, I'm guessing she had a little bit of sobriety and now is in relapse. Is that correct?
Yeah. She starts getting the pity party, and I won't listen to it. And this time I was actually coming down on her pretty hard, saying, it's because you haven't connected, you haven't reached out to anybody. And, people are there for you, and we miss you. And I started seeing you doing well, and she's like, I want to do it in my own way. And,
it sounds like she's not quite ready yet.
Right. Yeah.
You can't push it. You can't force it. It's one of the hardest things on this end, or when you're on that end of, trying to help somebody, and you see them, in that place of deep suffering. And how can you have compassion for it without conjoining, without, coming into the whole aspect of being a part of the disease? That's a fine line. And so I want all of you and your families to look at that line where you've drawn, because apparently that line needs to be adjusted. It's not working. So you make the adjustment. You being on the side of recovery, you make the adjustment, because you have no control over anybody else, and you know that. Oh. And so I think that's what, we'd like to say to you tonight is, okay, you and your family, those in recovery, those on the healing path, okay, let's make an adjustment here, and then watch the shift on her side. See what happens, because there will be a shift on her side, and you have to let it go. Take care of yourself, brother. Thanks for calling. This is David Kukkola and Norma LaBrava on La Onda Bajita, the Traditional Healers Forum from the four corners of the world. Norma, you there?
I am here, and I am taking it all in. I especially want to thank the people for coming in from a place of compassion. Mm-hmm. He was saying when a man comes to his office, he's been defeated. Mm-hmm. And they come because they know they're not going to be judged, but somebody's going to help them and maybe understand and not necessarily only blame them. Mm-hmm. So I'm taking it all in, because I feel like each and every one of us, especially our caller, each and every one of us can be healers in our own kind of way.
Thank you. Very good. And I want to remind our listeners that this is a call-in. It's a live show down here at KPFA, the mothership. Call in at 510-848-4425. And so do you want to continue on that direction a little bit, Doc, in regards to addictions? And in your opinion, if we can name one, what would you say would be the biggest addiction that you're dealing with, or that you could name? One of the biggest monsters. Yeah. Huh?
Yeah, this Hydra has many heads. Alcohol, for sure, is still a dominant thing, but I would almost say specialness is its own addiction. But pornography is also a huge one that comes in my office over and over again. It comes in couples therapy, it comes in individuals. There's something about, I remember one time I was talking to our friend Malidoma, and he was sharing a story about a man who he had talked to who was visiting him in Africa. And the man was saying to him, you have all these shrines out in the bush, and sometimes there's these gold pieces on there. Why don't you take those gold pieces and melt them down, trade them in, and raise the standard of living in your community? And Malidoma said to him, he said, whenever you take something that belongs to the sacred and separate it from the sacred, it becomes a torment to those who have caused its separation. And I began thinking about all the things in our culture that has been separated from the sacred. Sexuality is certainly a huge one.
Yeah.
And so is alcohol. And so is drugs. These are all things that have been separated from the sacred, and now they are tormenting us.
We have a caller, Mark, in Oakland. You're on the air. Come on in, Mark.
Thank you for the honor of joining the circle. Excuse my emotion, but you are very profound this evening. I'm a recovered cocaine addict. I'm clean for 31 years.
Congratulations.
I've been an activist for since my early 20s. I'm 65. Some very, very profound things are being said tonight. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Mark.
I hope the listening community is paying attention. I'm also a spoken word artist. I have a fairly short spoken word piece, a minute and a half. Is it all right if I share it?
Please.
Pain and desperation, you know they have a way of taking over our lives sometimes. Pointed steel searching in flesh finds a red river. Mechanical steel mosquito tastes the river, making sure to be in, then adds its juices to the red flow. Plunger drawn back, syringe full of blood, fifth boot ready to go. Voice says don't. I didn't. Pull that spike, lock that arm. Bells going off, sound the alarm. I was talking to a class of 6th and 7th graders at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Middle School in Hunters Point some 18 years ago, when the cutest little peanut of a girl you ever did see raised her hand and asked, "How long have you been clean?" And I looked and said, "Baby, where you been in your life to know to ask that question?" 13 years was the answer at the time. The entire class burst into applause. I feel their love and strength still. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark.
Beautiful.
Blessings on you.
Yeah, beautiful. You're listening to the Traditional Healers Forum from the four corners of the world here on La Onda Bajita. We have a live program tonight, being co-host with Norma LaBrava. This is a call-in show. We're talking about addictions, its many forms, causes, effects, solutions. If you want to join in on this sacred circle, please call in at 510-848-4425. We heard from Bruce Elijah, Oneida Clan of the Iroquois Confederation, with that opening prayer of how to live in that good way. And then Francis Weller was talking to us about the addictions and the many heads that it has, and how we take anything from the sacred. When we take it away from the sacred, we're actually criminalizing it and turning it into our enemy. And so we're going on a round table here. We have two other guests, Teya Valentina and Rob Allbee. We're blessed with the music of Ron San Miguel. And so with that, we're going to take Norma, you want to do a little station break, and Ron San Miguel is going to play a little music for us.
Yeah, you're here and you're listening to KPFA 94.1 FM and our sister stations and affiliates. We want to let everybody know you're listening to
just paint a picture in the sky
Healers
tonight
Forum.
for me. Won't you please paint my dream? Give us but a glimpse of the joy that we can find. Peace of mind, spirit of love. Guide us, Sister Moon, from the souls that work for pain to your light, when's a break of day. May the colors of the rainbow bring us together, and her arch be the bridge that sets us free. A world filled with joyful understanding, peace and harmony. Oh, I pray that we awake in time to see that the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is a golden vessel filled gentle wind across my face and take me home. Won't you please take me soaring in the skies like a golden eagle flying by way up high.
Thank you, Ron San Miguel, joining us here live at the mothership KPFA, where we have a program tonight on addictions here on the Traditional Healers Forum with Norma LaBrava, my co-host. Nice seeing you again, sister.
It's always good to be here.
And so this is a live call-in show with I'm fortunate to be sitting in this circle of three other great healers, Francis Weller, Teya Valentina, and Rob Allbee, who've been doing healing work for years, committed their lives to trying to make a better place for our children. And so with that, we got a caller on the line. We got Phil from Oakland. Phil, welcome. Come on in. Phil, you there?
You hear me?
Yeah, turn it up a little
Barely.
bit.
Okay, hello?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, welcome, Phil. Welcome to the
Thank you.
Healers Forum.
Thank you. This show is beautiful. I hope you guys can come back and do some more of this because we really need it.
Thank you.
We'll be
So
there.
listen. I was talking about this the other day, and I want to bring it to you guys. It might seem funny, but I was saying the other day to some friends that the people that I know that are alcoholic, they are some of the most beautiful people that I don't know if it's maybe I'm just lucky or maybe I'm unlucky, but the people, I know 5 or 6 people that have been alcoholic, and they're the most sensitive, beautiful people. They're spiritual, they're sensitive, they're aware, and I don't understand why that is. It really upsets me terribly. And the other thing that really bothers me is that I feel like sometimes people that are sensitive and spiritual, they can't fit in this society. Because this society is so hard and so competitive and so materialistic that people that are like that, they feel like they can't. And especially for men, because men, we can't show our sensitivity. Yeah. We can't show our love. We can't show our failures. That he was talking about being, guys aren't supposed to show that. So I feel like this combination of these societal factors makes it so, I don't know, thinking like that sometimes it makes me feel like it's hard to have hope, I feel sometimes, because I feel like if you're sensitive and spiritual and you're living in this society that emphasizes material and competition, and men are supposed to be like G.I. Joey, it's very hard to live like that.
Well, Phil, let's, hope is the fact that we're talking about it right here live on the show, and you're calling in. That's where the hope lies. It's bringing it visible. It's taking it out of the closet and saying, here we are, let's get real. I think that's what addiction's all about. It's about getting real. And so, you bring up some great points. My brother, who passed away a year ago, for years was an alcoholic, and one of the most sensitive, loving men you'd ever meet, and miss him dearly. And it is hard for those who have a lot of sensitivity to function in this world. It's very difficult because we've gotten thick-skinned here. And in these big cities, that's why I love going to sometimes these small towns. People actually look you in the face and smile and say hi. You come into these bigger cities, man, and everybody just got tunnel vision. They got their headphones on, and they ain't looking. They ain't saying nothing to you. You get isolated. And I think that's what Francis was talking about earlier, that the recovery is getting away from this isolation. And I think we've been talking about that for the whole past year and a half. You want to say anything, chime in on that? Anybody? Rob?
Yeah, I think the caller, he said, I can't, what's his name, Phil?
Phil.
Yeah, he said he had a hard time understanding it, but he nailed it exactly. When Francis was talking about, there's a whole pool of shame that people are feeling. There's also just the pain and wounding of life. I think if you talk to kids these days, if you ask them, do they feel shame or pain, most of it's going to be pain. it's trauma and what the caller was describing about the isolation of the human experience. From my own experience, I was a heroin addict for 30 years, and I had to find something big enough to compete with what I was feeling in my life, and that was the only thing I could find at the time. I was coming from a wounded place, and that felt like the only choice. Mm-hmm. So I think the caller was hitting it right in the head.
Yeah. So thank you, Phil. Keep hope alive. Stay strong. We want to go to our next caller, Toman. You there, San Francisco, Toman? This is a Traditional Healers Forum. We're dealing with addictions. We're talking about causes, effects, possible solutions from a traditional perspective. Tonan, are you there?
Yes, and thank you so much for inviting us to be a part of the circle this evening.
You're welcome.
I would like to just make a quick comment about the previous caller. I feel what he's saying. I feel it when I walk out every day into the street. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that keeps me from losing it, if you will, or falling apart, are my native roots. And connecting, sticking with that frequency. Mm-hmm. Only we know. And what helps, what I wanted to say to those, especially the young people when they're finding themselves in a stressful situation, is to pick up their drumming. Mm-hmm. Because the longer they drum, the longer we drum, it connects us with Creator. And those frequencies and those vibrations are resonating in our body. And it fills us, and we're able to sustain and survive. And it's so crucial at this time, I feel, personally speaking, that this is what's going to save me. What I've been reared with, how to walk this earth, Mother, how to be kind to the winged ones and the creepy crawlers and people of all races. But the drumming, most importantly, no matter what addictions we have, no matter what shame we walk with, we need to keep that connection in dance and ceremony and sharing and loving. So many blessings, and thank you so much for the show. Thank you.
Tonan, thank you. This is Teya. Thank you so much for bringing that, and I feel like I'd like to share with everyone, just coming off of what you said about the drum, and that's our heartbeat, and that's our connection to our own hearts and to everyone else's hearts. And, even if we don't have a drum, and just to place your hand on your heart and begin connecting to that heartbeat, and that sense of breath is a potent tool. And I guess what I'd like to share is, we've been speaking a bit about, the men's story, and I'd like to reach out to the women and the young girls that find their addiction through the self-hate in their bodies, and how it then comes in through the eating disorders and like that, and would like to invite any callers that want to share or ask questions in that regard of how traditional medicines can support. And the call-in number is 510-848-4425. And for myself, as someone who has recovered from a very extreme eating disorder and has over 25 years of recovery, the drum, as Tonan mentioned, the heartbeat, the dance, and dancing the directions, saying good morning to the east, to the south, to the west, to the north, knowing that you're in the center of your own body, and loving your body is one of the most beautiful gifts one can give themselves. And when I was a movement therapist at Henry Olaf outpatient here in San Francisco for some years in the 90s, the women came in with addictions and eating disorders, and it didn't matter. We'd be a room with alcohol addicts, drug, obese, anorexic, bulimic, all in the same room. But if we could bring our bellies to the earth and breathe together and find that connection to listening to that there's actually, we're on a planet here, and we're floating out in space, and here we are. And how to reconnect to the rhythm of our bodies as women, and nature, and keep it really simple. And bless our food in the morning, and get in tune with our bellies, and stop competing with each other and ourselves. I mean, it goes so deep. There's more than I can say, but I welcome anybody who is feeling isolated tonight in that sense of self-hate through any type of eating disorder.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so thank you. I want to remind everybody you're listening to La Onda Bajita here on KPFA, the Traditional Healers Forum. We've been coming to you every 3 months. We're working on being here monthly. We bring you real stuff for the community. We're talking about the issues of the community. How can we heal? We're coming from a traditional perspective, and some people say, what does that mean? It means body, mind, heart, spirit. And what you just heard Teya talk about was the drum beat. That's the spirit aspect of who we are. There's also a body aspect. How do I heal my body? That's through the nutrition, through the foods that I eat. We talk about the heart, the emotions, and Rob was talking about the torment and talking about the emotional aspect. And so there's all these different elements when we talk about addictions and when we talk about recovery, the many things that we can do. So it's not a hopeless, bottomless pit. But there's all these little tools that traditional healers can offer you as a ray of light, as maybe that connecting rod to life, to that gift that you are, the medicine that you are, and we need you. We need you, and it's not a straight line out of the forest. You know, there's a lot of bumps in the road, and especially in that road to recovery. Boy, you want to feel some bumps in the road. There are going to be a lot of those, and so just because don't get disappointed because you fell back on your knees, because this journey is about falling on your knees, but more important than that, it's how you pick yourself up. It's who you turn to, where you got support from. We got Vivian on the line from Hayward. Vivian, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Welcome to the Traditional Healers Forum.
Thank you.
Welcome to the circle. Please join us.
Thank you. I'm happy to step into this circle. I've been listening, and I just wanted to just add something. It's like everything that happens has a beginning, and I think beginning for all of us, of course, is when we're born and raised into a family. And I believe that parents have a responsibility to take care of their children and to not abuse them, because I think children who have been abused are often the ones that turn into addicts. And I would just speak from my own experience in my family. Children that are wanted and versus children that are unwanted, the difference is amazing. Since we had two my sister was born first in our family, and she clearly wasn't a wanted child. And my younger brother was born last, and he was one of the surprise babies that my parents weren't ready to accept that he was going to be arriving. And so I think both those children really suffered from just not feeling like they were part of it. You talk about separation, and I think that they experienced a lot of that. And so both of them became addicts. My sister, her name was Victoria, and she's no longer with us. And my younger brother has been an addict most of his life, and it's very sad because I grew up with him. I was 12 when he was born, and I spent a long time with him as he was growing up, and it was just very painful to watch him when the crack cocaine came around. And he got captured by that and is still trying to climb out of that. So anyway, I guess the point is, if you have a child and now and you're raising your children, not being abusive in any form would really probably reduce the addicts.
There you go. Yeah.
Thank you.
Everybody in this circle joins hands, joins in hearts that Our children need to be welcomed into the hearth of our communities. And with that, we're going to take a short station break. This is David Kukkola, with co-hosted by Norma LaBrava. We have the Traditional Healers Forum tonight. This is our second year running. We're looking at making this a regular program here at KPFA. With your support, we can make it happen. And so with that, we're going to take just a couple minutes here with Ron San Miguel with some of his beautiful music. Then we'll be coming back on the air. We're going to continue this roundtable discussion on addictions, causes, forms, possible solutions. We want you to join the circle tonight, the Sacred Circle, by calling 510-848-4425. That's 510-848-4425. We're talking about this gut addictions. Bring us whatever you want. We're here for you. With that, here's Ron San Miguel.
Que no engraso lo sé que me llaman abandonado, porque no engraso lo sé que me llaman abandonado. Si a mí me gusta que suene, ¿pa' qué los quiero engrasar? Si a mí me gusta que suene, ¿pa' qué los quiero engrasar? Es demasiado aburrido seguir y seguir la huella. Es demasiado aburrido seguir y seguir la huella. Andar y andar los caminos sin nadie que lo entretenga. Andar y andar los caminos sin nadie que lo entretenga.
Oh, it's good.
Ron San Miguel, ladies and gentlemen. Live here at the studio at the Mothership KPFA. We're talking about addictions tonight on the Traditional Healers Forum. This is a live call-in show. We got a number of you on the line. Please be patient with us. The lines are buzzing off the hook.
Off the iPad?
Off the iPad. So with that, we have Francis Weller, Teya Valentina, Rob Allbee. Each has been sort of given their input on addictions, causes, effects. It's a big subject, folks, you know. It's a big one.
Sure is.
And where do you even start on this besides, you know, maybe we can start talking about our own. Who's first?
I already started. I could go on various and sundries.
Yeah. Oh, boy. I only got 30 minutes.
I know. Where we start? Hey, you know, I do want to go because I feel like I want to reach out to those young people that are listening to us right now, because you know I think as a culture we do a pretty lousy job at meeting their needs. Oh. You know, I think that for myself, as I mentioned earlier, I struggled with heroin addiction for 30 years, and you know, as I started to hit the wall and fall down and see how it affected my life, I started looking for alternatives and finding things that can compete with that behavior. But before then, I was still having a good time. It was fun. I had a lot of fun. And I think that a lot of young people out there listening now might be saying to themselves, why would I want to stop doing something that's so fun? And that's true. And normally people don't change that behavior. I know I didn't until I started getting wrecks, physically and emotionally and all that. So I want to speak to them because I think that sometimes, when we talk about some of the ways that we approach addiction, whether it's through, and we've talked about it here, whether it's through an approach to spirit or psychotherapy or that, I think for young people, it's almost like they have to get to that point where those things, they kind of heal into those as they go through their healing. But the first place that they're getting to is, I know for myself, the wound was around just flat not being seen. Mm-hmm. I think that the caller talked about it, and that, young people, and I know that was true for me, that I felt like I just wasn't seen, and I wanted to figure out a way to fit in, party, have a good time, and be with what all the other people were doing. Mm-hmm. Because in the cultures, in the circles that I ran in, there was no religion, there was no therapy, there was no, there was none of that. It was just the streets, and everybody was just doing it hard. Mm-hmm. And so I want to reach out to those kids that are out there where your life is starting to become painful, where the results of your behaviors have started to have an effect, and that I think we as a culture have to start doing a better job of hearing those people. They're out there in the streets screaming anyway. They're out there making all kinds of noise, whether it's with gangs or with music but for the most part, I feel like there's this gap where they don't feel seen by the people who are kind of so, quote unquote, supposed to be running things, supposed to be handling stuff.
The adults.
Yeah.
Well, I like to chime in there, and that's one of the things is that what I have observed as a practitioner and now raising my own two boys with my husband and I, and my oldest just turning 13, what I've noticed is the adults stop being adults. They like, in my language, I call it this like their own desire bodies just continue along, and it's almost like they don't want to hold that authority figure, perhaps based on how it has been done in the past, which was not benevolent, and then so there's a lot of submissiveness that occurs as well, where there's no boundaries. Mm-hmm. So on some level, it's like how to create boundaries and yet also give what's going on in these adolescents' bodies, which is physiological, right? The adrenaline and that need for something to hit up against. Yeah. And so we need something epic, like, create something that is epic. I'm not sure what that is in each environment. It's different. And lyrical, meaning something so beautiful, like climbing a mountain and seeing something that, if you've never seen the ocean, get these kids to the ocean, for God's sakes. Get them their feet in the water. And then something dramatic. They want something. And I feel that inside myself. Sometimes I still have that in me based on my own history, that I need that music loud. I need that bass through me. And that's, I need that something to hit up against. And, that's what they're looking for on some level. So how to create it where there's not harm. Right. In yogic terms, it would mean, ahimsa, no harm. No harm. So I know we have callers that are waiting to share.
Thank you, everybody. We've touched a nerve here.
There's a lot here.
The phone lines are full. We're coming home here somewhere. We got Francisco on the line. Francisco, welcome to the Healing Circle. How are you, brother?
Very good to hear you all. Yeah. Very good to hear you, David, and my brother Ron over there, and Gavilan and Brava for this wonderful, wonderful show. I can never hear it because I'm always working one place or another, and it's always a long time. But today I was just driving up from another place, and I turned it on, and there you guys were.
All right.
So thanks for that blessing to hear, Bruce. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
I had one thought about addiction. Thank you. Where my
you got a lot of background noise there, Francisco. Can you quiet it down there a little bit, please?
I wonder what. Is that better?
Yeah.
All good. I was looking at this thing of addiction, and some folks might say, well, my grandfather or my father or this or that, my mother, whoever was addicted, so I'm sure I'm never going to touch alcohol or I'm never going to touch drugs or this or that. But what I was noticing is that it leaves the thing about addiction is that it leaves a pattern. No? Oh, yeah. There's patterns to addiction, and so maybe someone can say I never drank because my father drank, but then they become workaholics, or
that's right.
The addiction is all about a pattern of not being able to be free. If folks want to say a little bit about that.
Yeah,
and thanks for this wonderful show.
I call it the dry drunk.
Dry, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Francisco. Anybody want to add a little more to what Francisco had to say about the patterns? It's not about how much you drink, it's about who you are.
No. Yeah, I would just throw in there that one of the ways that we describe addiction is wrong ritual. That every addiction has its own ritualistic style to it, whether it's workaholism, which gets praised in this culture, or other styles of addiction. They all have a certain ritualistic style to them. But what's missing is the connection to the sacred. So no matter what you do, you end up feeling less and less connected the more and more you practice the addiction.
Can you define that a little bit, Francisco? I know there's going to be some people out there, relationship to the sacred. What is this? What is this that this Francis is talking about?
Yeah, I think I loved your term for it, David, the dry drunk. Folks that could say, well, I'm never touching this or that drug because my relative or whoever. But it leaves precisely that pattern of not being able to be close with your family, and so you become a workaholic, and you think you're all Mr. or Mrs. Do-gooder, but in fact, you're still following the same pattern of not being able to be close, or like our sister was saying, not being able to come to nature. It's really. There's a book called American Freedom, American Slavery, and this brother goes back to the actual British and European books where people were documenting the Jamestown and the Roanoke and these communities from that were trying to settle in the U.S. And they all kept failing. And it was surprising to read in that book that when they finally, Jamestown and these other communities finally started making it, it was because they started prostituting tobacco. They started selling it to England. And so communities stopped farming, stopped the small, the local, and they started the cash crop. So they desacralized a sacred herb, which was tobacco. So it's very interesting that the whole history of how the slavery began was because they started prostituting tobacco. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Francisco. We got a huge lineup here. A big hug. Be good to see you again. Say hi to the family.
Thanks a lot. Take good care.
Yeah. Bye now. This is David Kukkola and Norma LaBrava on the Onda Bajita program. Tonight we're talking about addictions at the Traditional Healers Forum. This is a call-in show at 510-848-4425. Something on your heart, something you want to share. Bring it on, bring it in. We're listening. Norma, you there?
I'm here. I was just thinking about about our culture of consumerism, and I was wondering how many millions of dollars goes into the recovery industry, this little cycle of addiction and recovery. And I mean, it must be a lot, because there's always some advertisement for a solution and a recovery program, and I was wondering if anybody had any idea about that, because it does seem to be there is some kind of industry in this healing.
I have no idea. I know it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Do you feel like perhaps the companies have a vested interest in keeping people addicted? For example, giving methadone as an alternative to heroin? I've heard that's one of the hardest things to kick. So I don't understand how that's helping. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, maybe we touched on it a little bit earlier tonight, in that we live in a addictive society. We're born into it.
Yes,
it's not something that you become. You're born into it, and so then it becomes your flavor of choice. Which one are you going to do? Mm-hmm. And I think we've been exploring that a little bit tonight, and that it has many flavors. And we just talked with Francisco, and we talked about the dried. It's not even about someone who's drinking, but someone who hasn't done that internal work. And I think what Francis, Teya, and Rob are referring to tonight is that inner work. Alluding to being in touch with your emotions, alluding to being in touch with the sacred, welcoming the youth, letting them know that we need them and that we need to parent them, we need to teach them, because they have gifts, they've been born with a gift, and how many of our children have been welcomed in that sacred way, in that good way. Mm-hmm. We got another caller, Marie Louise in Palo Alto. Are you there? Welcome to this healing circle. Marie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you for waiting so long.
Yeah, I've been listening carefully. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, come on in. What do you have?
So I've heard so many worthwhile hearing things, and one of the things that I guess I have to notice in my life is that there can be wrong nurturing while one is a child. And then when it comes to addictions, I sort of feel like it's a wrong nurturing, because one seems like one wants to fill something, but it doesn't fill it in a nurturing way. This is a totally wrong nurturing. So I just wanted to say I kind of perceive it as that. And then I also wanted to go to just one thing that comes from the Buddhists originally towards me. I read it first there, and it is to be in touch with one's original being, the very being I was when I first recognized myself as being here. And I think that's very important. So I think if we can sort of get behind or around a lot of things that have come on the way, it helps to be in touch with that original being who we were.
Thank you very much. That was, anybody want to chime in?
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. Is that that break from the sacred? It shows up everywhere. I mean, we were talking earlier about Kurt Vonnegut's son was a heroin addict, and he described it as cheap grace. You know, that I had this yearning that I couldn't even describe as a kid. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what I was feeling. I only learned much later on what it was about. And it's about that reconnection of my soul, so to speak, to the sacred. And I think it starts and causes all that wounding when that doesn't get recognized. And so I even talked about, that I recognized when I was doing heroin, it felt like the closest thing I could get to a spiritual experience. I knew I was cheating. I knew I was taking a shortcut and that it wouldn't last long, but I didn't care. Yeah. And I think that it ends up flowing into everywhere, not just addiction, but every wounding when that break from the sacred at the soul level doesn't feel met.
And that's what I think is so interesting too. When I'm working with people, I actually have a feeling sometimes that the soul is behind the addiction. It almost brings the addiction.
Absolutely.
It is a way to bring that person through that threshold of defeat into the possibility of remembering something much more true about who they are.
I've personally experienced it.
Yeah.
Oh, great words. Thank you, brothers. You're listening to Traditional Healers Forum here on La Onda Bajita. We're talking about addictions, root causes, possible solutions, trying to understand it, why it's such an epidemic here in this culture, and the children that we're losing. And brings great sadness. And I know each and every one of us has dealt with somebody in our families who've had an addiction issue, and the pain that it causes everyone. It's not something that just hurts the individual. It pulls us all into that suffering, And so how can we join that addiction in a healthy way?
Mm-hmm.
And how can we throw out that life jacket, maybe save a life? And that's what we're talking about tonight. We have Buffalo, Greater Bay Area. Welcome to the Healers Forum tonight. Are you there, Buffalo?
Right here.
Yeah, welcome. Come on in.
When I was a youngster going to college, they give us this word, anomie. Now, one of y'all can spell it later. This microwave is costing me, so I'm going to cut straight to it. We're not in an addictive society. We're in the best trained customer society. Being well-trained customers and subjected to the customer stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Precursor to addiction appears to be enemy. A whole bunch of well-paid-for commercials that make customers out of us, and the amount of willful ignorance around us. I don't think addiction can grow unless it's fertilized by plenty of willful ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the meantime, y'all healers, I wish y'all put in some time for the sister Norma, and that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Buffalo.
Thank you very much for that.
Good words.
Ignorance.
And so we're coming down to the last 10 minutes of the show here. We want you to know that you can still call in. We have a few lines available. 510-848-4425. We're going to keep moving through this. We've been talking about the body, mind, heart, spirit connection, its relationship to addiction, and how can we swim through that river? Yeah, go ahead, Teya.
I just want. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just wanted to state that, living here in Marin County.
I can't hear.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Living here in Marin County, I tend to see high-functioning people that are addicts, and they seem to be able to hide it really easily. And in a way, I guess, part of me wants to call you all out in that the need for perfection, or the need, like, what is the motivation to exercise every day and to do it perfectly and to have the perfect something, to eat the perfect this, and it comes all from the mind. It's like, oh, well, if I messed up here, and it's so slippery and slidey, this whole addiction process in a more affluent area that I see at times, that then separates us from each other. You're
definitely onto something.
And I guess I'm just calling that out if anyone wants to call in about that. I mean, I hit bottom in many different drugs by the time I was 17, and was clean and recovered from the eating disorder by the time I was 20 years old, and was in treatment, relapsed, had to have a long road, was homeless. And people sometimes think, well, eating disorder, how does that compare? We're all in sometimes our own little hells, whether it's compulsive shopping, like you mentioned, the compulsive sex. It's really in our minds, in our souls, in our hearts. And I know, I always talk about, well, these are just words. I'm much more of a kinesthetic. And how do we come together? All the 12-step meetings are free. That can be your first place. You can go there and find community. Or you can go back to your roots and see if there's a drum circle somewhere, if that's your connection, if you have that lineage. I feel like I'd like to also address the fact that most women and men that have had eating disorders, usually there is some form of sexual abuse underneath all that. And that's been studied and correlated. And there are there is healing. There is healing and reclaiming the sacred in that way.
Thank you, Teya. Thank you. We're having a roundtable discussion tonight on addictions, the way it presents itself. This is a live call-in show. We have Liz from San Jose. Liz, are you there? Liz, San Jose, are you there, Liz?
No.
We'll keep on moving then. We're gonna talk. Is Bill? Bill, are you?
Bill is here.
Bill's here.
Bill.
Okay. All right. Welcome to the Healing Circle.
Yeah, my name's Bill. I'm an alcoholic. I'm on my way to the dry dock to the 10 o'clock meeting. And so it's outrageous to hear you guys on the radio talking about this. I just want to share this one definition of spirituality, and it's by William James, and defines spirituality as our attempt to live in harmony with the unseen order of things, and liberating myself and being a witness to the liberation of others from addiction in order to do that, to be in harmony with one another, and to be happy, joyous, and free is the most noble and outrageously rich thing I know. And so thank you for being there and doing what you're doing, and just keep coming back, baby.
Thank you, Bill.
Well put, brother.
All right, brother. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is David Kukkola and Norma LaBrava. We're talking about addictions here on the Traditional Healers Forum on La Onda Bajita program tonight. This program has been shortened somewhat, so we're on the air for about another 15 minutes. Then we got some really important community issues that we're going to have to address. So now's the time to call in. 510-848-4425. And we'll try to get you on the line. We're talking about addictions, and what I've seen. I've been into doing the healing work for almost 40 years now, and listening to all the stories. And what I see a lot of people get stuck in, and I think addiction could be considered being stuck in something. In my definition, and get stuck in this sense of lack of passion in life, lack of direction, a sense of self. There's a lot of, maybe in simple terms, depression, a lot of depression, and don't know how to get out. The tunnel, the hole seems too deep, and where do I go from here? I got my monthly bills to pay. I got children to feed, but my life, I don't like my life, and to me, that's a form of addiction, in the broader sense of which I'm defining it. And what I've seen in all the work that I've done with my people, and the people come to see me, is people really wanting to find the meaningful life. And maybe it's in that absence, Doc, that maybe that's when maybe when the alcohol comes in, or maybe the rage or the anger, Guys, I know a lot of brothers stuck in that anger.
It's not too much to ask for.
Yeah.
To have a meaningful life. We all deserve that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think sometimes it just gets twisted and it becomes too much, and you just give up and get lost. So you're right.
Yeah. And so maybe that, Rob, that's the abandonment of the sacred. A useful life.
Yeah, feels like it to me, that connection to, what we've used the term medicine, that each soul comes in with a unique sacred representation of the sacred, and that somehow got lost or buried or whatever, however it happened, but that thing gets lost. And I couldn't even define that when I was young.
Right.
I just felt this something like, I felt like I was going crazy. The world was crazy. Everything was crazy. But I think it's that separation from our unique sacred selves.
Okay.
Well, if the only image you're given is one of trying to get a good job.
Right. So you can buy stuff.
That is not the arc the soul came here to participate in. You know?
No, to have stuff.
There's a chronic disappointment and frustration with the absence of something rich.
You want to say that again, Doc? I think that's a really important one.
Well, there's a chronic sense of disappointment and frustration that what we're presented with as the goal of our lifetime actually comes out quite empty. One of my mentors once said, we've learned to climb the ladder of success. When we got to the top, we realized I was leaning against the wrong building.
And so with that, we're going to take our last call. We have Frank on the line. This is the Traditional Healers Forum. We're having a roundtable discussion on addictions, causes, effects, solutions. Frank, you there?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, come on in. Join the circle.
Right on, brother. When thinking back when I was younger, you have these experiences, and the spirit touches in many ways. We experience, whether we like it or not, death is there. We sense that, and we have these dreams, and if we don't have somebody, to really say, hey, what about this happened to me? Oh, it's just a dream. Forget about it. And so those things, they can fall away, and they're very important. We're starting to connect, and like you say, if we don't get this, then we're lost, and we're still searching for something else. But like you say, what it really hit is that the tangibility, they need something that they can really experience. We need that, the ocean, the mountains, other people. That's the thing with the alcohol and all. We're looking for that way to connect, and the drugs, and like you say, it may be cheating, or it seems simpler. It's also, with young men, it's a challenge. It's the ego. Like, I remember going to this party, and these cats are upstairs chasing the dragon, and I'm going, what are you guys doing? Oh, man, this, we're not shooting up. We're not junkies. I said, man, you guys, another thing is the education is not, the information now is not out there. People are so afraid, if they give the information that these kids are going to run towards these drugs. That's wrong. You give them information, and that's armor for them. They know. They have to see this stuff, and they have to understand. So somebody can go, hey, yeah, check this out. Or what are you, they challenge their manhood, or they challenge their, sense of adventure, and it's man, I've seen so many people on such an innocent thing, they ruined their life in a weekend,
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you for your time. Oh, bro.
Thank you for your call.
Man. Okay, lady. Well, we're going to be winding down here. We got Ron San Miguel going to do a little background music for me while we sort of wrap this up. I'd like to just sort of go around the circle real quick here, with each one of yous. Just maybe a sentence, a few last words to maybe somebody out there or maybe to the bigger community, something you might want to say. Francis, this is Francis Weller, psychotherapist, healer, Santa Rosa.
I think the most critical thing is to come out of isolation. I think part of sharing, even with one person, that you're struggling with whatever the addiction is, whether it's addiction to perfection, like Teya was mentioning, or drugs or alcohol or whatever it is, when you begin to share it, it begins to dissipate the shame, and you begin to feel your own value again. You become somebody worth fighting for. And until you know that, you're going to keep surrendering to some unholy thing. So I think it's really essential you begin to remember your own value, your own beauty, your own worth. And that begins by connecting with another human being.
Teya Valentina Chavez, healer up in Marin County. Your closing words?
Blessings tonight. May you feel the wind at your back. May you look out at the stars tonight. May you take a deep breath and know that each moment is new. One day at a time, one moment at a time, and open to the possibilities of miracles. Aho.
Rob Allbee, founder of Inside Circle, works in prisons in Sacramento.
So, yeah, brothers and sisters, to those people out there fighting addiction on the streets and in the prison cells, keep doing your work, brothers. It's worthwhile. You're worth it. And, I also want to challenge those of us that are on the other side to see and recognize those people who are doing that work. It doesn't take that much to just say hello to a stranger. I feel like our community has got to get better at that. So, yeah, peace and love, and it's good, and I'm out.
I want to say a little special hello to my grandson, Elijah. I want you to know that Grandpa loves you.
That's it.
We see you as that man that you are.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
You're just learning how to walk. And we're here for you. We're here for you. You don't have to do this one alone.
That's it.
I just want you to know that you're loved. And with that, we want to thank all of you for tonight's program. I want to thank my sister, Norma LaBrava.
Yeah. Thank you, Norma.
Thank you, Norma.
Thank you.
I want to thank Clay Schmitz, video producer, Clay.
Thank you, Clay.
Ron San Miguel, beautiful music.
Thank you, Ron.
Pedro, engineer. Miguel Molina, executive producer.
Yay.
Orale Holmes.
And so this is at La Onda Bajita. You can reach Teya Valentina at teyavalentina.com. You can reach Francis Weller at wisdombridge.net. Rob Allbee can be reached at insidecircle.org. Ron San Miguel can be reached at 510-435-5471 or on Facebook, Ron San Miguel /music. This is David Kukkola. You can reach me at dksaammi@mac.com or 415-317-7032. This is the Traditional Healers Forum on KPFA, La Onda Bajita, Traditional Healers Forum. We're going to be coming back to you soon. We've touched the nerve here tonight, folks, and we want to continue this discussion. We want to further this, the community's input. We want to deal more with these addictions. How do we prevent this epidemic from consuming our youth? How do we shift this energy from destruction to creation? Where are the recovery programs and how can we create more? Relapse, what do we do with relapse? Because it's not a straight line. How do we change this culture? Hope.
That's it.
Hope.